I'm Dr. Darlene Chambers, Senior Vice President for Programs and Services with the National Charter Schools Institute. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're going to answer the question, what does an authorizer's tiered intervention system look like when working with charter schools and providing oversight and monitoring of agreed upon performance contracts? The contract for a charter school, or better known as a charter, sets the stage of what the authorizer expects from the school and the school board on behalf of the students and parents. What will you achieve at that school? What kind of academic performance? What type of financial metrics must be met for the solvency of the school? What about the operation of the school? What are the expectations for the school building and running the school safely and having a healthy environment for the school to conduct its classes and teach in that particular facility? All of those expectations will be agreed upon at the onset of the signed contract. The tiered intervention system is a policy that will help guide not only the school board, not only the school itself and the authorizer team, but help the community understand the expectations for performance. What will trigger a concern? What will be the outcomes of needing to address that concern? So again, we can get back on a preferred agreed upon performance on behalf of the students. The intervention flowchart will really explain what it entails for addressing an issue, a deficiency, or a continuous improvement need. Let's build, starting with the comprehensive and negotiated performance frameworks. If you as an authorizer don't have performance frameworks, perhaps you have benchmarks and metrics your board has voted on. That would be acceptable, but I strongly advise that you think about putting performance frameworks together for academics, for financials, and for operations. It provides a great basis to build your intervention flowchart on. Once you have your performance frameworks, then you will need to negotiate that defined contract. Have conversations about expectations. What will happen with compliance monitoring and oversight? Again, you have two pillars to build upon. First, the performance frameworks, the contracts address, and then inside your contract or an appendice to, it is highly advisable to establish a policy, a board voted on policy that's communicated well at the time of the contracting with your authorized school and school board, a defined and communicated system. What types of tiers, what types of levels, going from a simple letter of concern to perhaps talking about probation, or hopefully not, but even getting into the opportunity for revocation and closure if metrics are not met. And it is a condition that is threatening to students and parents' ability to learn, or might be a severe financial deficiency. Once you have your performance frameworks, you have your negotiated contract, you've defined and communicated your intervention system and attached it perhaps, or at least referred to in your contract, you will want to do technical guidance on all three. That technical guidance is having conversations or providing training so there's no surprises and that there's agreement and clear understanding about expectations and the consistent delivery of those expectations. All of the above informs the annual performance evaluation report. Important that you include every year, how are the performance metrics being met? Was it necessary to have a conversation or an agreement during that year to address some continuous improvement areas? Always good to include it in your report and identify the areas of strength. I like to start there. What's going right with the school? And then the areas of needed improvement. They deserve credit for addressing any issues you might have mentioned that year and what they're going to do about it so that parents, students, and the community at large is very confident that quality performance is occurring at that school. The annual report, year after year after year, should inform the renewal or the revocation and closure. Again, no gotchas, no surprises. What are those possible intervention policy sections? I'd like to start with an overview and a description of what intervention even means to the authorizer or to the authorizer's board who has approved it. What are the overall expectations? What are the grounds for intervention? And most importantly, what are the consequences for not addressing the concerns? The charter school responsibilities. What will the authorizer do during the intervention? What will the charter schools be expected to do? Typically, the authorizer will review what the charter school will say, that they hope to provide actions, the way they will address the grounds for intervention. You as an authorizer will approve it, and then you will do what you do best, monitor and oversee. The charter school is responsible for telling you how they will address the intervention to avoid those consequences and provide a timeline. Very important that the authorizer does not get into prescriptive ways of meeting the intervention request, but be better at and be helpful with the oversight and monitoring of the successful plan. The table of tiered interventions is what the authorizer needs to spend time on. What are the different levels? What are the triggers? What are the consequences? Be concise, be clear. Intervention policy overview explains the why. Where in the contract are you pinpointing that's causing the need for the intervention? If it's not in the contract or required by law and code, you need to ask yourself why the intervention. Should you put it in the contract? Should it be something that should have been introduced? Important that there be, again, no surprises. What intervention notices will include? Please pledge for timeliness. Let the school know what is expected about the time to address it. Pledge to preserve school autonomy always. How about the intervention policy grounds and consequences? What's included in that section? You heard me say it before. Triggers and severity of consequences. How will the notification process occur at the various levels? Will it be a simple letter? Will it be a letter and a notice to the board with specific requirements? What's going to happen in that notification process? How do you respond to it? The corrective action plan expectations. The corrective action plan is a template or a method or an improvement plan I recommend in writing that can be easily approved, can be easily monitored or amended, and can hopefully be accomplished. And then a failure to remedy consequences. So that policy of what will trigger it, how are we going to notify the schools, what type of tool or expectation for responding to the intervention, and failure to remedy the consequences and the increasing severity if you don't. The intervention policy charter school responsibilities, you heard me mentioning a few earlier on, but let's go through those again. It will be important for the charter school to address the notice. Do you have to have 5 levels? Not necessarily. I trust your judgment. I'm just going to give you best practices that usually, according to NACSA and others across the country, there are a possibility of 5 levels. Please, it's always important for our partners, for people we work with, the stakeholders, that we put in an appeal process and give them the right to contest our intervention. They may know something we don't know. We may have overlooked potential fact or artifact, and it's important that appeal process be built in to our policy. And the charter schools should have the right and responsibility to contest or appeal. Submit and implement a corrective action plan, and notify status. It is the authorizer counting on the school to let the authorizer know, I have remedied the plan, the intervention, the issue, and I want you to take a look at it. Something has occurred at the school and I need an extension, or there's been a change in the environment and I would like the authorizer to consider a modification. This notifying status should be the school's responsibility. Ask and share. Important for you to reflect over our time together in this video. Pause, Nick. The question we started with is the question we're ending with. What does an authorizer tiered intervention system look like? Ponder, talk among yourselves, think about what we covered, and share out additional information that you would like to include. Thank you.